You can't get much more Georgia raised and educated and a real Georgia bulldog than Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. He joins us right now on this edition of The Truth. Burt Jones, welcome to The Truth.
Hey, good to be with you, John. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you having me on.
It is a pleasure to have you and an honor. I'm really very proud of you, Burt. I've not known you for a long time, but I've known you since 2021, and I've been able to follow your career. You really have dedicated a life to public service, haven't you?
Well, I've done a lot of it here. Obviously, I've still had my business that I've been running, and obviously in Georgia, John, as you well know, even the lieutenant governor's job is not a full time job. So we all have day jobs besides our public service work. But yeah, we've done a lot, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. Obviously, when you and I first met, just trying to make sure Georgia didn't go into a purple or blue state. And we've been fighting for election integrity, been fighting for the America First agenda. And so it drew me in a lot more just because of the concern I had for where the state was tracking.
Well, you started your political career on the Water and Sewer Commission in Butts County, and you've
Hmm.
really never left public service since then. That was what year? 2009, where
Yeah,
you served for 11 years.
I was
Most
appointed
people,
to. Yeah, I was
yeah, they're
appointed
not.
to that. It wasn't a real hard gig. We met once a month, and but yeah. Obviously, in a small town, and if you have a little success, you get drawn in, and you want to be drawn in to be a part of the community and try to help navigate things.
Well, I respect that. And then you ran for the state senate. You beat an incumbent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I beat a 10-year incumbent. It was a 3-man race, and I won that without a runoff. And when I ran for lieutenant governor, it was a 4-person race in the primary, and I won that without a runoff. So I'm hoping to repeat that on Tuesday, John.
So I went to the penultimate source of knowledge, Grok, and tried to find out what the policy differences were between you and Rick Jackson. And I struggled to find much of anything about Rick Jackson's platform and what he is running on. How would you distinguish yourself on policy from Rick Jackson?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was the first one that came out and with a platform, so to speak, talking about cutting taxes and cutting regulations and being strong on public safety and being strong on school choice issues and everything else. And in fact, most of these guys that I'm running against, they've all kind of adopted the same platform. The only problem is a lot of the things they're talking about are things that I've already gotten done as lieutenant governor on school choice, on getting boys out of girls sports, on cutting income tax. I've done that. Want to continue to do that. Cap property taxes. So these are all things that I've already done and want to continue to work on. But as far as best thing I can tell from the Jackson crowd is that they know how to throw some mud, and they know how to tell a bunch of lies. And I guess $100 million can make any piglet look like a prom queen, I guess, because that's what they're trying to do right now. And they have fooled a lot of people into believing he's something that he's not. The best thing I have going for me is him going out and getting on the stump, and because he's not a charismatic guy, he looks a lot older in person than he does on TV, and he's kind of a shell of a guy than what they make him appear on their Hollywood productions on TV.
The Georgia state budget is $36 billion. That is an astounding number to me, and the budget has grown exponentially over the last several years. Is there a way to stop the growth of state government? Do you favor that? And
Uh,
two-part question. B, is there an effort to rout out fraud, waste, and abuse in state government? With
right.
36 billion, I'm guessing that there's some waste that could be curtailed.
I mean, obviously, there's always better way to do things. Obviously, and that's in business. That's in anything, any organizations that you work in, and that's something, if when I'm elected governor, I'm going to appoint people to those agencies that have a background in those different subject matters. And the first thing I'm going to task them with is let's figure out how we can do. Conduct our business more efficiently and see if, and I try to do it in a cost savings. Yes, our budget has grown in the last 10 years, John, but you also got to remember our population has grown in the last 10 years. And so that means you have a lot more, a lot more people for these services that, state government does provide. That is one cause of it. And quite frankly, but look, there's a lot of pet projects that have gotten done in the last 10 years. So sometimes as far as for legislators and everything else. And obviously those are things that, we need to rein a lot of those, inefficiencies in, and we also need to rein in a lot of the spending that we've been doing. But like I said, Georgia is the envy of the country because we do have a $14 billion surplus. We do have the lowest unemployment in the country right now, and we have had a lot of success from a job standpoint, economic development. But our population has really grown in the last 10 years, and it looks like it's going to continue to do so.
So when is enough? You said a $14 billion surplus. That is a staggering amount of money, and I'm surprised. I knew we had a surplus. I just didn't realize it was that large.
Sure.
Does the state law or the Constitution limit the surplus in any way? I know that in Florida it does. That they have actually reached the threshold of the maximum surplus that they can accumulate.
No, to answer that question, no, there's not a stipulation on how much you can put in there. I will say that we have been we gave back over $3 billion in tax rebates in the last couple of years. And, so, obviously, you want to work towards, under the Deal administration, we had zero surplus, and he's the one that started working towards putting together a rainy day fund, obviously, because under his administration, they experienced the 08-09 downturn, which was pretty significant. So that's when the surplus got started, and it is, we've put it, it's grown under the Kemp administration. And quite frankly, everybody's been expecting a hiccup in the national economy. We hope it's not similar to the 08, 09, 10, debacle that we had, in this country. But every time the economists start talking about that, we rethink how we want to use these surplus dollars. But what we have done is we've rebated those back to hardworking Georgians, and we've cut into it, and we have used some of it for big transportation projects. We put $2 billion from the surplus into the DOT for some significant transportation initiatives here in the state. And those are always going to be projects. If you go around the state, John, you can see all the different DOT projects that are going on right now. I'd like a lot of those projects to speed up a little bit. They need to start moving at the pace of the regular businesses, as opposed of how they're moving right now. But so anyway, so those are all things that we look at. Look, I'd much rather have the rainy day fund than not have it. But yes, keeping too much of those dollars on hand is not necessarily needed sometimes.
Well, you want to reduce the state income tax, or do you want to eliminate it? What is the yardstick?
My goal has always been to get it to zero, but I've always said you're not going to do it in 1 year. You're going to do it, gradually, multiple years, and we're going to be responsible in how we do it. We're not going to blow a hole in the budget like, say, Kansas did several years ago when they, just passed. They were going to go eliminate their state income tax, and they were going to do it in 1 or 2 years or something like that. And it really caused some havoc. It actually got all those Republicans beat out there in Kansas, which is a ruby red state. And so Yeah, so that's something that we're going to be responsible. We've lowered it 4 years in a row since I've been lieutenant governor, and I want to see us continue to do that because every other state around us right now is talking about moving towards doing that as well, and those that represents your direct competition. Obviously, Florida doesn't have one, Tennessee doesn't have one, but now the Carolinas are talking about getting rid of theirs, and Mississippi voted last year to start getting rid of theirs. So we're going to work on that, and we're also going to address property taxes for homeowners because that's probably been the biggest question that or biggest issue that's been talked about out on the campaign trail was the price of property taxes. So we capped those this past year in the legislative session, and I think there's ways to adjust our homestead exemption that we have right now. Right now it's at $2,000. I think we need to increase that to give homeowners a savings on their property taxes. It hadn't been updated since 1937. The only reason why it's $2,000 is because that was what the average price of a home was in 1937. So we need to get that up to modern day standards, and that would give immediate relief to homeowners on property taxes.
So I know you were a Georgia Bulldog. You were co-captain of the Georgia football team when it won the national championship. So I'm thinking education is one
SEC championship. I wish we'd won
SEC.
that. SEC.
I stand corrected. A minor correction with a lot of significance. But so where does Georgia stand today in education? I know education is the largest budget portion of the state budget for K through 12 education, at least.
Yeah.
Where do we rank nationally?
There's always room for improvement.
And
we passed school choice 2 years ago. I'm a big believer in public education, but I'm also a big believer in parents having more choices. And and I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We always got to be working on our literacy in our K through 12 public school systems, and that's something we really concentrated on this last year. At our university systems, we're back to teaching our future teachers phonics. Actually how to properly teach young people how to read and write and do arithmetic, and so that's something I'm glad that we've brought back into the educational realm at the higher education level. And so I'd like to see us continue to move towards full-scale school choice, but I also want to put more resources in the actual classroom with helping teachers. Teachers have way too much paperwork to do right now. In-classroom teachers have a ridiculous amount of paperwork, just red tape, bureaucratic red tape, and we need to clean that up because people go into the teaching profession. My mother was a public educator for 25 years. They're doing it because they love kids and they love educating kids and they love doing the job. So we need to concentrate on allowing them to do what they do best, and as opposed to trying to prepare these kids or all these standardized tests and all this other stuff that just is I don't think is doing our kids a good service by allowing that.
So you want to be governor of Georgia. You have served for the last 4 years as its lieutenant governor, and you've served next to Brian Kemp, the current governor. How would you assess his job as governor of Georgia? And you can just grade him. We're talking about education. You can give him an A, B, C, D, or F.
Yeah.
What do you assign?
Look, Governor Kemp and I have had a great working relationship. We've tackled every initiative that he has wanted to see accomplished, as well as the things that I've wanted to see accomplished, and we've had a good working relationship there. It's a three-legged stool there. The Georgia legislature. It is not a dictatorship. We have you have a Speaker of the House, and you have the House of Representatives, and then you have the Senate and the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor. So we have all had we don't always agree on everything, but we always try to figure out how to work through things, and every big initiative that we have set out to do. Whether it was a speaker on his literacy bill, whether it was this governor on his tort reform bill, or whether it was myself, looking at school choice. We've always figured out how everyone can get a victory, and we've always worked through whatever differences we might have. So I think the governor's done a really good job and just having a steady hand on things. I was on the Eric Erickson show yesterday, and he asked me, what almost a similar question. And I said, look, his defining moment is going to be during COVID when everybody else was shutting states down. He opened Georgia back up, and it kept people working. It kept people paychecks in people's back pocket, and I think that was the big reason why he was reelected for his second term overwhelmingly. And so, he's, like I said, he's done a good job. Look, hey, John, I was probably the only one. I've got a good working relationship with him. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement. At one time, I was probably the only person in the country that had open dialogue with both President Trump and Governor Kemp.
Well, that's what I wanted to get into a little bit. I've raised and donated to Kemp in 2018
Right.
a pretty good amount of money. We had a fundraiser, a breakfast for him in Buckhead. 100
I
people
know.
showed up.
I'm waiting for that opportunity with you now. We need to get that breakfast. You and I do now, John. I'm just
Well,
playing with you.
you got my phone number. Just give me a call. We'll do it. But I have, like you, I felt like that Kemp did a great job as governor. He's been right on most issues. The one litmus test that he failed for me in a major way was on election integrity in the 2020 election. How do you and Kemp reconcile that? And how do you get along with Brad Raffensperger and Chris Carr? I mean, it seems to me to be a little bit of a motley crew that you've got down there. I don't know how you can work with that group of constitutional officers for whom, I'm sorry, I just have a very low personal regard, Kemp accepted.
Yeah, well, I'll start with Chris Carr. He's such a he has been a very ineffective attorney general. I'll just say that and put it nicely.
Well, I ran against him for AG.
I do. I remember
4 years
that.
ago, and I called him Chris Do Nothing Carr.
Yeah, well,
He's like a turtle who will not refuse to stick his neck out for anything.
If it's anything that's got a little hair on it, yeah, he's going to run away from it pretty quick. But yeah, so that is, like I said, I mean, and look, he's been running for 2 years. He's still in single digits in this governor's race. So, it is what it is with him.
Raffensperger, on the other hand,
Raffensperger has been pretty terrible to work with. I'll say that. I mean, I tried to go to him when I first got elected to see, how do we try to figure out how to get more people's confidence back in our election system. So I came in there with some legitimate questions about, the management systems in there, the Dominion voting machines and all this other stuff. And he stonewalled us on that. And he's got a real arrogant bunch that works for him. And they were just impossible to work with. And like I said, we went to them wanting to try to figure out how we could, because we're sitting here representing the people of the state, so we wanted to see if there was issues how we can correct them and all that kind of stuff. And they just stonewalled us. And so, and he's, you've been around him before. He's got the personality of a rock, I mean, he just sits there and he's not entertaining to be around or talk to or anything like that. So,
the thing I don't understand is why we still have the QR codes. When I campaigned, I went all over the state, and Dominion and the QR codes were uttered in the same breath. And I don't know anything that has undermined voter confidence in our electoral process than the pesky QR code, because, you cast your ballot. It's represented by what's on the QR code, but nobody can crack the QR code and look and see what it really has inside of it. And it makes me skeptical and wonder what's going on. Just continuing that thought for a second.
Yeah.
I found one person in 2022 when I was campaigning who said anything favorable about Raffensperger. I was on a forum in Ellijay, Georgia, where he literally could not finish his speech to a group of Republican grassroots people. And yet he claims that he won 51% against Jody Heiss, David Belle Isle, and Sheriff TJ without a runoff.
Right.
Can you get a fair election in this go around, Burt?
Well, we hope so. Look, obviously 2 years ago we passed to get rid of the QR codes. He still has not complied with that. He's going to be out of compliance come July 1. So I'm fully expecting us have to go into a special session after this primary races are over with for us to get to some sort of agreement where we'll be back in line with the law. But yeah, he's been impossible to work with. He's like I said, he's got a real arrogant bunch. That is his top staff that works around him. In fact, one of them is running for Secretary of State, Gabe Sterling, which is amazing to me that we've got a guy who's counting the votes, running for governor, and then his lieutenant is running for Secretary of State. So it does seem pretty strange. But look, that's the reason why we've just got to get out in masses, get out and early vote as much as we can. Obviously I ran in 22 as well. And, I won that race, and a lot of people didn't think I could win then, against who I was running, the three I was running against, but we won it without a runoff. So, I was very surprised about, the vote count that Secretary of State got in 22, but he seems to be, lagging as far as in the polls, as far in our race right now. It's a 2-man race, and that's really what I'm concentrating on right now. And when we run through the finish line on Tuesday, and which I think we're going to win on Tuesday, then I'll get with the Speaker and Governor Kemp, see exactly what we're going to do about having a special session and doing something about the QR codes.
Is there going to be any kind of a reapportionment effort in Georgia in that special session, like we've seen play out across the country now?
Oh, I think there definitely will be some conversations about it. Obviously, when you look at the maps right now, we could redraw the maps and pick up 2 more seats, possibly. I can't see us picking up any more seats than that. I'm talking about pick up 2 seats that would, be strong for a couple election cycles. You can redraw maps for right now, and but they might not be good for you in a couple years. So you can if you get too aggressive with it, you could put with the way Metro Atlanta is growing, you could put Republican districts in more harm's way than they are right now. So I definitely think there's an opportunity to draw the lines where you could potentially pick up 2 congressional seats, but we'll have to look at it because, like I said, I've traveled all over this state, and I know the states that are. I know the counties that are ruby red, and I know the counties that might be red but are trending in a different direction right now. So I think you have to be mindful of that when you get ready to draw lines. But it's definitely going to be in the conversation if we do have a special session.
Well, Burt, you are you are the only reason that the Trump 19 was not the Trump 20, because you looked Fani Willis in the eyes and you beat her and you got her indictment against you removed. Why, how is she still the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia?
That's a great question. Look, we put in the prosecutor oversight committee, and I've been very disappointed in how it has really not done anything since we appointed them. I had a couple of appointments and speaker in the governor's office, and quite frankly, I have been unimpressed with what they've done. In fact, the reason why we had to call in Fani Willis as well as Stacey Abrams here just as recently yesterday to question them about some of their shenanigans that they've done on different fronts was, number one, because we have an attorney general who is pretty much useless. And then also, we've got this prosecutor oversight committee that we put together to go after DAs who are not doing their job properly, and they have done nothing since they've been established. So anyway, when I get elected governor, I promise you, we're gonna put some bulldogs on there to go after DAs who are not following the law and who are not doing their duties under the Constitution.
Well, there's ample reason to be concerned about Fani Willis's stewardship of her job. She and Nathan Wade went on extravagant trips around the country while she was paying him a very high wage to be a special prosecutor on a RICO case for which he had no experience or knowledge.
that was such a witch hunt. That was the biggest sham ever. I spent 2.5 years paying lawyer fees,
Yeah.
fighting this lady, and there was nothing. Nobody broke any laws. That's been the biggest misinformation campaign ever. Nobody broke any laws. Nobody tried to harm anybody. People were asking questions, and they wanted those questions to be investigated and answered.
To get a fair, honest election.
That's
You're
right.
not saying that Fani Willis broke no laws, though, are you?
No, I'm talking about the folks who were indicted.
The Trump 19.
Yeah, the Trump 19.
Yeah.
Nobody broke any laws, and it's ridiculous that she wasted almost $20 million of taxpayer money on her charade. It was all self promotion. It was all about trying to get on magazines and TV and go on vacation and all this other stuff.
Well, she was colluding with the Biden White House,
No
including the
question.
January 6th commission, which we now know have learned subsequently.
No question. And if we had an attorney general, that would do his job, then instead of running for governor for the last 2 years, you might have somebody who could you might have
Well,
somebody.
all I can say is I did my best to try and fix that.
Yeah. Hey, look, John. Hey, John. I got to get out of here. I got to get up to Gainesville here in a second. So let's.
We got 1 minute left. While in that 1 minute, tell us about what separates you from Rick Jackson. I mean, I understand that he has given money not only to Jeff Duncan, but to Liz Cheney and other people. Stacey Abrams brought her name up. What in the world is going on? He claims to love Trump, but he never gave him a nickel until he got elected.
That's right. Look, I'm the only conservative in this race, quite frankly, John. I mean, when you look at Jackson, Raffensperger, and Carr, these guys are not conservatives. These guys are milquetoast. And you just look back to 24, 22, and 20, when I was out there fighting for election integrity, fighting for Republicans to win statewide in 22 and 24. These guys were nowhere to be found, including this Jackson guy, who you said it right. He's given to Stacey Abrams. He's given to Liz Cheney. He's given to John Ossoff. And he's also given to Jeff Duncan. He bankrolled Jeff Duncan. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Duncan's not still on his payroll, to tell you the truth. But he is not a conservative. He is not. He's not out there looking out for everyday Georgians. He's out there trying to look after a profit that he's getting off the state with these state contracts. And I tell you what, he's somebody that if he's a manipulator, he's a pathological liar. Nothing that comes out of his mouth is the truth. You can tell it with the campaign that he's run. They've attacked me literally on everything because they don't want to actually try to debate me on the issues themselves, because they know I have a very conservative, consistent track record.
They've attacked you from the shadows with this secret PAC that they've got millions and millions of dollars that they've used to attack you. I assume that's from Rick Jackson. Nobody really knows, but
no question. That's his style. That's what he did to David Schaefer back when he was running against Jeff Duncan. That's what he's done to other members who have disagreed with him in the past. That's what he does. He tries to hide in the shadows like the coward that he is, and to hide in the shadows and attack people with his money. And so anyways, but we're going to beat him because Georgians are starting to see through all this mess, and we're going to beat him on Tuesday. And I look forward to putting him in our rearview mirror.
Well, I wish you well. You said you were going to win on Tuesday. Does that mean win without a runoff?
That's what we're shooting for. I don't play for overtime. I like to get these things done in 4 quarters, Well,
I was pleased to attend your event yesterday, and I picked up a Burt Jones bumper sticker, and it is prominently displayed on the back of my car. So best wishes to you, and good luck on Tuesday, and we'll continue to follow the race. Thank you for coming on The Truth today.
All right, I appreciate it, John. Always good to see you. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Have a good day.